coming from the operational engineer going into what you do now, is there any overlap or
It's
for what
almost
you're doing?
100% overlap.
Okay.
So when the operational engineering position is more of like an old school title. It's not very modern. Really, what I was doing there was tools and automation engineering as well as DevOps engineering. We got to work with a lot of infrastructure. We got to write a lot of services applications. We worked with every team, core tech, gameplay engineers, game teams, all of tech ops platform, CSQA, just everybody. And a lot of it was mostly automation, but that's what OpsEdge was. It was what today's tools automation and DevOps engineers are. It's just that Nexon is a very modern, forward-thinking company, and the people who work there are good about picking, I guess, titles for people. But yeah, a lot of the work that I did overlapped. A lot of the experience that I got at Daybreak carried over to help me secure the position at Nexon. Especially given that it was a game studio, I got a lot of really good experience because I had the knack of trying to help as many people as I possibly could. So I got to touch a lot of different services at Daybreak, and that helped me learn enough to impress the very, very intelligent, amazing people at Nexon.
That's pretty cool. So it's from just thinking back to our conversation, it sounds like you got a lot of experience from just life experiences that kind of helped round you out to be such the conversationalist you are, and being able to communicate with what needs to be done task-wise on any given job that you're doing, and being very knowledgeable too. So it almost makes me feel like I don't know, like the schooling in the beginning didn't really. I mean, you did learn a lot of programming, it sounds like, from what you talked about when you did like the languages and stuff, but it doesn't seem like the schooling for your, like, in your path that you did helped you as much. I mean, I don't recall you ever saying anything about how, like, what you did there, especially going into your first jobs. It was almost like you were just kind of biding your time or kind of waiting, it feels like.
It does seem a lot like that. I will say it was really important that I went to community college and I got the education that I did while I was there, because it laid out the fundamentals of programming and programming languages and got me the experience I needed to be able to teach myself.
And it sounds like you got it immediately, like with how you said your classes were. Because if you went to a 4-year school, I don't think you would have got, like, the meat and potatoes of what you wanted to learn right away.
I had some just truly amazing teachers while I was at that school, and I'll be honest, my first semester taking CS 111 Java 1, I didn't pass that class.
Why? I know young Ryan, as opposed to the Ryan we're talking to right now, had a different mindset on things, but why didn't young Ryan pass that class?
Young Ryan screwed around too much. I wasn't being as attentive as I needed to be. I wasn't putting enough focus or determination into the work that I needed to do.
Now, were you not taking it serious because it was community college, or because your peers that were also in class, everybody kind of just came in right out of high school? That's what I'm assuming when you talk about community college.
Most people did.
So a lot of people are still not on that maturity level of understanding, like, hey, these are the steps towards you making your future bright. So was it accumulation of that as well, like who you were around?
I think I just wasn't mature enough. That was one of the problems I also had when going to Sonoma State University. I was not mature enough, and I learned a lot of very valuable lessons while I was there. In my first semester at Miracle State Community College, I got my butt kicked because I couldn't handle it. I was like a disaster.
Like, as far as, like, you mean in prioritizing your workload and making sure that you can get your stuff done on time.
If I was missing classes, I wasn't doing my homework, I wasn't studying. Was
that how it was in high school for you too?
Yeah, I got by really easy. I was able to take whatever class I wanted, and I was able to do very well in it with very little effort. And so it didn't really prepare me.
Yeah, I've heard that before from some people. Like, I don't know what it is. Is that just something like internal that does that? Because the people that I've talked to before, where they're like, "Hey, high school is just a breeze. Like it just came to you. Like it made sense." But then going into that further education was like, whoa, reality set in. I didn't learn the things in high school of planning, prepping, and all sorts of stuff that I needed to carry on for college. Like, where did you finally go, aha, okay, it makes a lot of sense now?
So when it first made sense, so coming from high school, I just didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how the world worked. I had like my San Diego bubble perception of how the world operated, and boy, was I wrong. Life kicked my butt a couple times, and I truly deserved it. And then when going to Miracosta Community College, first semester, did very bad. And my teacher, Miss June Porto, who's to this day one of the best teachers I have ever had.
They seem to have really cared, it sounds like
Yes,
on a personal level between each student instead of just grouping you as a group, as like a whole.
They were really good at paying attention to the people that they thought the people who were there who wanted to be there, that weren't just there because their parents were making them go there. And so because Miss June Porto gave me a little extra attention and kind of was like, oh, you're this close, you're really smart, and you could do this, but if you don't do your homework, you're not going to be able to learn this kind of stuff. It's a new language, come on. And so I tried again the next semester and made some really good friends, and I realized that me just doing this on my own wasn't the most practical solution. And I was asking a couple of people. I remember talking to one friend next to me, and I said, hey, you seem to really get this stuff. Can I buy you a burger and we can like talk code? And he's like, you don't have to buy stuff. What? And that was the beginning of a very beautiful friendship, and helped me. We studied together, we became good study buddies, and we started growing a group of these guys that all were very passionate about trying really hard to be really good, and we kind of had that competitive nature against each other to kind of like keep on pushing ourselves. And that was like the beginning of some of the best years of my life. It was really right there when I wasn't doing well in community college, and I met these guys, and they were motivated. I became motivated. We were all motivated, and we just kind of pushed through it. And shoot, I remember taking data structure and architecture types, CS 113, and when I completed my final, I handed it to the teacher, and I was like, I got 100%. Like there's not a question I missed. And I remember him looking at it, and he's like, oh yeah, that's you did. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll see you next semester. But it took a long time. It was really difficult to get to that point. But yeah, having that community of early on developers who were all learning at the same time just was extremely fun to learn together, to grow together, to get better together, to get through these classes and do well. And I just, again, best years of my life. I loved it. So through all that, learning the fundamentals of programming, all the concepts, abstraction, polymorphism, inheritance, generics, whatever, that all helped me be a better self-teacher for moving on to different programming languages, because the concepts stay the same, the syntax changes, and some of the logic changes, but it's primarily the same. And so, yeah, it's just kind of went from there.
That's pretty cool. That's cool, man. Yeah, I think a lot of people these days are going towards community college to start. So now it does sound like not only did community college like prepare you for the languages and understanding, how to have a better perception of how to educate yourself on the languages. It sounds like your college background was more of like just helping you mature a little bit more, as opposed to you blossomed in college. So it sounds like that's what that was there for, and that definitely helped you, because start going to those startups, like you were a one-man crew. You were with another person but I don't know if people understand there's a lot of work that goes into doing something by yourself, and now you're on a two-man wrecking crew for a new startup. There's a lot of responsibility there. Like, you can tell immediately if someone's dropping the ball or not able to do the things they say they can do, because it's a two-man team.
Yes. Yes. For Prismic, especially, that was a learning experience for a lot of people. It was a lot of people's like first time having we call it a big boy job for now. Those are all our first big boy job. And I really exclusively worked with one other person, Jocko Gores from Belgium. Super cool guy. Really liked him. But he was not as available as I was. And so that's when he was the CTO, and I ended up actually becoming the CTO in his place. And we ended up having to look for more talent. So it ended up just being me, myself, and I for a good while. But we had like my good friend Bryce Harlan, who's up in New York working at more startups, because he's just that kind of guy too. He kind of do everything, jack of all trades, master of everything. And so it's, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you know when somebody's dropping the ball. You can tell when there's a weak point in the system. And we ended up growing the team. I think the largest in terms of engineering, I think it was 4 to 8. I think it was 8 at its biggest. And that was like, we had like people working on analytics to try to show to investors. We had backend systems, pipelines for getting the products into the 3D form that they needed to be in so that we could display them in WebGL. We had people working on the viewer, the different experiences that we could have in the viewer, like points of interest, working with clients, integrations. So there's a lot of work to do, and I surely couldn't do all that by myself. So I was fortunate enough to be able to actually work with a lot of people and kind of get we all worked together to make that happen. Yeah, I don't know. It's, I guess that one was kind of like the exception because we had a lot of people that ended up touching the product. But a lot of it would be on my own.
Did you do the hiring of those people too, like for interview skills and so on? Like, or did you guys like use a management group that would outsource the HR and do the hiring for you and then just introduce you guys to the people you worked with?
We did all the hiring ourselves at Prismic, and actually every startup that we've done. It's a lot of, I know this person that does this thing, or
so you know a friend of a friend type thing.
Yeah,
but how did that go? I mean, because it sounds like you did get a lot of life experience when you had to interview somebody. How did that go over? Or were you like, hey, everything looks good. I think I want you on the team. Blah blah blah. You know.
I think that at the beginning of me interviewing people, I remember being very judgmental because I didn't really know what to expect. I guess I didn't know too much about interviewing myself, and I was a bad interviewer, I think. But I tried to keep it really casual, very startup-y. Take people to lunch and talk over lunch. So something not conventional. A lot of like,
so
hey,
it's very casual,
very
like
casual.
Just to know the person and not the skill set, right?
Yeah,
sounds like.
there's that part of it. I liked doing like take-home projects where it's like, hey, here's like I want you to come up with an idea, and then I'd like you to implement it in whichever way you best see fit. And I remember the first guy we hired, Nathan. We did exactly that, where we said, hey, come up with an idea and then implement it. And so he came up with an idea. He explained how he wanted to do it. He broke it down really well, and then he started implementing it. He kind of updated us on his progress. By the end of the deadline, he didn't finish it, but that's not really what we were trying to get.
What was he doing to update it? What was he using a code? Was he using some of the APIs you're talking about earlier, or
so
what?
He wrote it from scratch. It was something that he wrote in Node.js, and because we had a lot of Node.js at Prismic, so he joined in doing that as well.
Is Node.js still used currently, or
Node.js is still, it's JavaScript, so
okay.
It's JavaScript on the back end.
Okay.
A lot of people use it. A lot of people don't like it.
Yeah, because just to make sure, like Node.js, reason why I ask, because if people are watching and don't know what it is, it's good to know, and especially if they want to go into what you're doing, is that something they need to learn, or
your tool belt, or like your tool set that you're going to use, really can be developed on your own.
What works for you, what you find works best.
What works for you, or what works best with whatever tools or whatever system you're building. Like you don't write a video game in Node.js. You typically write it in C++, or in the case of Unity, C#. So it really depends on like what is performance you're looking for. Are you doing networking? Is there a language that's already preferred for that type of project? So you end up learning what works best for you and what works best for what you're trying to build. And so I keep myself very diverse, where I'll do like build systems in Python. I like doing desktop applications in Electron, which is Node.js. So a lot of JavaScript. I'm still right now I'm working on being better at C++, so that way I can write better, more performant backend systems. So it really depends on what you're trying to build.
It seems like I know sometimes jack of all trades is thrown around within people's careers, and it's not really a good thing. But it seems like in what you do, being a jack of all trades is highly beneficial because of putting out fires, but also understanding the diverse set of tools that you have in order to approach different situations or issues, because one may be more maybe the better choice to fix an issue or resolve an issue, as opposed to just sticking to your guns and be like, well, we started this in this certain type of API or whatever, and you're like, we're going to stick to this, and then you're like, this isn't working.
Yeah. If you don't mind me kind of diverting to Daybreak Games, a couple lessons learned from working there. They used a lot of legacy systems, and it was written in C++, and it will die in C++. And
Was that because of proprietary tools?
so many proprietary tools. Everything it's video game development industry. The video game development industry is notorious for build it in-house. In-house is better. Is in-house more like outhouse, am I right?
Well, you know why they want to do that, right?
So they want to do that because they think they can do it better.
And make a lot of money off of it.
I feel like that's like pretty spicy to say. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah. Well, no, but that's not just for that studio. A lot of companies do that, but I think a lot of companies do that with the intent on they're making proprietary tools to go with their engine.
Money. They think it will work better with integrations.
But they also want to license it. You know, a lot of places I've been, they're like, ooh, this worked great for us. If we license it, we can make even more money. You know, which is a weird way of approaching it. Like
a lot of people do have like that intention initially,
Yeah.
where they're saying like, oh man, I have this like great idea. Like, you know what we have a problem with? Host monitoring. I'm going to write host monitoring software. It's going to be the best. I think I did this. This is like me making fun of myself. It's like, we're going to make this new software. We're going to deploy it. We're going to kill and cripple Nagios and all those other old school things that everybody's using. We're going to change the industry. And it's, it's tough to do that. You work at a company, legal wants to step in and say like, no, like you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't open source that. Don't share that with anybody. We don't want to license that. It's going to be a legal nightmare. So I think a lot of people have the intent of like building something great. Like, I'm going to make a game engine and we're going to deploy it and it's going to make us all this money, but it's not usually going to do that. I don't think. I think there are exceptions. Like, Epic has a very good game engine, for example.
Yeah.
And they write it for themselves and they write it for everybody else. And that's what we're using, and we're sticking to it. It's not great in my opinion, but it's the best right now. So that's what we do.